Hello, friends. I am the Reverend Terry Peterson, minister of St. John's in Gourik. It is sundown on Friday, the 2nd of April. Today is Good Friday, and we have come to the end of the day. Darkness has fallen on this, the 39th day in the season of Lent. Today is the day that we remember Jesus being tried and crucified and dying. There are many memorable aspects to that story, including the part where his friends run away, the part where Herod and Pilate cannot decide who is really responsible for Jesus, because he's not committed any crimes according to either of them, but the crowd in the city is stirred up by some of the religious and political leaders to insist on his death, and Pilate, who does not appear to have a spine, but he does have quite a thirst for blood, agrees. Jesus carries the crossbar of the cross out to the place where he will be crucified with other common criminals. Crucifixion was a typical punishment in the Roman Empire. The Romans crucified millions of people in an effort to keep the peace by sheer force. So, on this Good Friday evening, when the sun has set and the world is quiet, we turn to our 39th object, which is a wine glass. Now, I have wine glasses like this that hardly ever get used because I have a cat. And so this is the most dangerous form of dishes that I could possibly have. So I admit that I use wine glasses like this with no stem on them so that he cannot knock it over. So the wine glass holds the fruit of the vine, keeps us connected. Jesus said to be connected to the vine is a part of our task as Christians. But today the wine glass reminds us of the other half of communion. Yesterday we were speaking more about the table and about the bread we break around the table. But Jesus also poured out wine and said that this wine was the new covenant made possible by his life that was poured out for us. And when we pour out the wine, we can also remember his love pouring out, his life pouring out. And that's not only at the communion table that we can remember. There are many instances of Jesus giving of himself throughout the Gospels, well before he gives the ultimate gift. And I bet if we think for even a moment, we can come up with plenty of examples in our own lives of people pouring out their love, their life, their service, their passion for the sake of other people or for the sake of the world. So I wonder then if we can also think of times when we have done it ourselves. When have I poured out my life for someone else, or for the world, or for a good and important cause, or for Christ? When have I poured myself so much into something that I could describe it that way? This is my life poured out for you. In the end of the story, that we know is not the end, but the disciples didn't know. In the moment, they didn't know. It says, from about noon, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, crying out with a loud voice, said, Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last. When the centurion saw what had taken place, he praised God and said, "Certainly this man was innocent." And when all the crowds who had gathered there for this spectacle saw what had taken place, they returned home beating their breasts. But his acquaintances, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance watching these things. So they watched and they waited. And when Jesus was buried, the women saw where the tomb was, and then they went home because darkness had fallen and the Sabbath was upon them. They went home and they waited. They pondered all that had happened. They grieved the loss of their friend. They sat in the darkness and thought about how he poured his life out for them. And perhaps they thought about how they too could pour their lives out for him and for others, because he had said that there is no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. So tonight, as darkness falls, we raise a glass to fallen friends, to those who have poured out their life for others. And we remember the one who poured out his life for the world. And we wait. So until day 40 tomorrow, peace be with you.